Alright guys, so today it's going to be an introductory video to my trading the Nasdaq with square of 9. I'm not going to go too in depth on it today. I'm just going to kind of briefly go over what you do. And for some of you, this is going to be enough for you to just get started, get going, and just do it all yourself. Others of you might need more explanations and reiterations of what I'm talking about. But anyway, let's get started. So, the issue with the Nasdaq, first off, is that the asset is such a high value, it's 20-something thousand, that when you're taking square roots and you add another number and then you re-square it, you're getting time increments that are so close to each other that it's hard to work with them. And also, it just, if you've practiced Jenkins stuff, you'll know it doesn't look quite right. It still can work, but it needs to be compressed more. That's the best explanation I can give, is that you need to be compressing the price more. And so how are you going to compress price more than a square root? Well, you're going to go for a higher power. So what you're going to do is you're going to go cube roots or quartic roots. Okay? I'm not going to go too in depth to it, but you're basically still going to re-square it, but you're going to take the cube root or the quartic root. Okay? So, for example, all these times I got from this major low from Thursday, I took the quartic root of the price, add 1, re-square it, and then count forward in hours and get these time increments. I'd add 1 resquare, add 2 resquare, add 3 resquare, add 4 resquare, so on and so forth. And it's, again, remember, this is an asset. Well, this is a derivative of an asset. This is the futures derivative of an index, which is comprised of 100 different stocks. So it's 100 different companies moving all chaotically, and this is the average of those. So it's going to be very hard to make it super perfect because it's an average of 100 different companies, all moving their own slight different ways at the same time. A lot of those companies move similarly, but if you look at each individual one, their intraday price movements will be significantly different from one another. You know, they all will tend to move up, but they'll fluctuate and reverberate and harmonize at different frequencies. So again, you're taking an average of it. So to get any sort of consistency at all is actually amazing. But so anyway, Quartic, add 1, resquare. Quartic, add 2, resquare, add 3, so on and so forth. But what you're going to find is that a lot of times it'll give you a very good buy point. Like, it's not going to be the final low always, but right here it's telling you to buy, and it's right before a big up move. Here as well, it's buying, you're buying it right at the beginning of that candle, right before a big up move, right? Now, it's not going to tell you how far it's going to go in the direction that you want it to go in, but it's just telling you, here is a very probable high, here or low, contextually. Here was a low, but price ended up going lower after. But that said, it still had a nice little spike right afterwards, right? Here, now that's not the lowest price, but that's pretty much the final low right before a big spike right there, but also an uptrend. Here, catching a low again. Here, catching a low. It goes lower afterwards, but still, it's a low and then there's a spike. Here, again, it went down and there's a little spike. It still goes lower afterwards, so it's not always easy to trade, but it's telling you, hey, this minute is going to be a low. Right here. This isn't the lowest price it was, but this is the final kind of low right before not only this spike, but a big up move. Right here, this is a low, or it's pointing to a high, but it's pointing to pretty much this top right here, but also this low right after the top of this big move. And then here again, it's pointing, it kind of is like a little high within a low, but it's, I would say more, it's pointing to this general low right here. This one, it's about a minute or two early, but it was kind of came right here at the end, yeah, right here. So it's pointing to a low right before a big spike, but it's also very local to a final high. Here, you have a final high. This one occurred during the market close, so interestingly, the market made a low and a high. It kind of quickly, so what you notice is that when a cycle occurs during that 1 hour where the market's closed, and it reopens again, it kind of has to like hit a low and a high. So interesting there. But so anyway, this is just an introduction to what I'm doing and what I'm working with there. I have a feeling it's going to get more complicated. I don't have it completely solved, but this is definitely, I mean, in this aspect of it, I do have solved, is that you're just taking the Quartic route or the cubic route. You could even go to higher powers, right? So we'll experiment more with that in the future. But the point of this video is to open your mind to, you don't have to do this on a day trading time frame either, but it's just, you don't just have to take the square route. You can take the cube route. You can take the Quartic route. You can go to the power of 5, power of 6. There's no limit to this. Okay, so and what this kind of segues into is me mentioning that although Gann and Jenkins have studied this stuff their whole lives, it can get kind of complicated, and it feels like these guys are just scratching the surface. So what we have here is sort of I wouldn't say a new frontier, because Gann was like frickin' 60 something plus 70, 80 years ago or something. What was he, in the 1940s? So we're talking like, yeah, 80 years ago. So it's not necessarily a new frontier, but it's a frontier that's so vast and kind of unexplored, because there's not a lot of hard science on it. Because first off, there's stigmas around quote-unquote numerology, which I don't believe this is numerology, but I think this is rooted completely in math. And the same way that let me say this, I believe that time and price are equal. They're a continuum. Does that sound familiar? Like Einstein, right? Einstein figured out that space and time are relative, right? Well, in this, I don't even know what to call it, but in markets, you don't have physical space, but what you have is price and time. And so what you have when you're trading is a price-time continuum. How about that? So now you're starting to get into even more complicated stuff than what I'm pointing at here. This is kind of almost like just a basic building block, but then you're going to get into relativity and almost like astrophysics type stuff. And if that sounds strange to you, it shouldn't, because I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to you. But if you've heard, I don't know if you've heard, but I've seen a lot of documentaries about Wall Street, and a lot of top high-frequency trading firms employ astrophysicist coders to work on their HFT algos. So now I don't know a lot about what they do because it's very secretive, but just the fact that they're hiring an astrophysicist, and that's starting to kind of, hint towards, yeah, there's some sort of price-time continuum going on that they're trying to manipulate, and they're trying to beat patterns in the market and human behavior. So I know that may sound wacky or abstract to some of you, but it really, to me, it makes a lot of sense. And in future videos I can get into. I'm no I'm no high-level math whiz or science guy, but I have also been able to project the market swings using some physics, things like the kinetic energy formula. We'll get into that down the road, but you use mass is volume of shares traded, and velocity is the change in price over time, and you can project future pivots in the market using swings. It can get more complicated. You can get into things like angular momentum, where it's like the angle that a swing occurs at and the momentum it has can project a future price pivot too. But it doesn't necessarily have to get that complicated. You can simplify it down, but this is kind of what I'm trying to show you. Is it's almost as if there are physical forces in the market, even though it's all electronic now. Price moves up and down with there is actual momentum, and there's tipping points, right? So it has kinetic energy to its swings. It has potential energy and kinetic energy. So this gets a lot deeper than you guys might think. Okay, and so I'm just getting to the surface of this, and don't hope though that I'm going to have all the answers for you. What I would hope is that this video inspires you to employ whatever math and science knowledge you remember from school, or even if you want to, because I personally plan on, when I have enough time and resources for it, to get a higher level math degree and study some math and physics and stuff like that, because I want to understand it better so that I can apply it to markets better. But the point of this is really to inspire you that if you start playing around with math and some science and trying to experiment with, you know, some numbers and do some trial and error and try to convert price into time and time into price, you're going to come up with some very interesting phenomenon that could potentially make you a lot of money down the road. But it's not going to be an easy path. But anyway, I think this video is long enough, so I'll see you guys next time. Okay, take care.